It's heartening to see so many members of our community gathered here, united by a common purpose. Today, we come together as neighbors, friends, and community members to address a pressing issue that has deeply affected us all: the recent violent crimes committed by youths in our area. This is a matter that weighs heavily on our hearts and minds, as it impacts the safety, well-being, and future of our entire community. We are fortunate to have with us several distinguished guests who have committed their time and resources to help us navigate these challenging times. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the mayor, the chief of police, the assistant chief of police, and Pastor John for being here, and also the church for allowing us to use their establishment to hold this meeting. I'd also like to thank a lot of the school representatives that are here. It's a great show out today. We all really appreciate it, and I'm glad that we're doing something. Our purpose today is twofold: to understand the impact of these recent events on our community and to discuss how we can collectively work towards preventing such incidents in the future. This is not just a meeting for sharing concerns, but a platform for generating solutions and fostering a spirit of collaboration and resilience. Let us remember that our strength lies in our unity. By coming together, we are demonstrating our commitment to making our community a safer place for everyone, especially our youth. We're here to listen, to learn, and to take action. Thank you again for your presence and participation. Together, we can and we will make a difference. Now let's begin with an opening prayer led by Pastor John.
Thank you for being here with us today, and I hope that this turned out good. And I also would like to remind you, all of you, to respect God's house and whatever you have in your mind, and try to be a loving word and a kind word, and how we can come into together in unity for community and to help and live harmony with one another. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father, we gather together today. We ask for your spirit of unity to be present among us. Lord, we pray for our city. We pray for our mayor. We pray for the police department and the school district and all the offices that represent here today. We pray for our people in our community. We pray for your guidance. Lord, help us to live together in harmony toward a common goal. Remind us of the word in Psalm 133:1 said, "Behold how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity." Lord, I ask for your protections over our community. Guard us from harm and violence and discord. Let your presence, peace, reign in our street. Let your peace reign in our community and reign in our home and Lord, in each and everyone our heart. Lord, we pray for people who are struggling their life in our community. We pray that their heart will be healed and give them peace and give them direction that you want them to be. And also we pray for those who are experiencing hardship, poverty, loneliness, and illness. Lord, we pray for the strength from your power of Holy Spirit. Oh God, we pray for this meeting. We pray that may your power, Holy Spirit, be your presence today to give us the sense of mind that to live in unity and love one another. Because you love us, Lord, so much. And that's why you sent your Son, Jesus Christ, for us. So we ask your Spirit to be present here in our meeting. Guide us beginning to the end. In your precious Jesus' name, and all together we say, amen.
So I would just like to remind everybody that we're here to come together as a group. We're not here to yell at anybody, slander. We're in a place of God. We're here to come together where all our voices are going to be heard. There's also community impact papers outside. If you want to fill those out, we'll be making copies and we'll be bringing them to our legislators, our representatives, and as well as the prosecutors. Right now, we're going to have some opening remarks by the chief of police and the mayor.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming today. I know that you're here because you have, as I do, a great deal of love, care, and compassion for this community. There are many people in our community that are hurting right now. There are many people in our community that are afraid right now. They are in fear. And I don't know that I can squash all of those fears for you today, but I want you to know that we are here to work on the sound. That we are here to work on how we do come together. Jacob, thank you so much. Your words, I don't know that I could be any more eloquent than you. And thank you, Pastor John, and to the Church of Nazarene for allowing us to be here today, because I think this is the perfect place for us to be when we are talking about the issues we're talking about. Many of you, hopefully, do all of you have this handout? I ask that we put that together because I think it is a really good visual reference for you to be able to see what local government is responsible for, what county government is responsible for, and what state government is responsible for. Many people, I think, just think government and think that we all have the same responsibilities. And we work together. That is certainly a shared responsibility, but the oversight that we have varies by the level of government. And so I just want you to be able to have that and take that with you. Ask questions about it when we move into the community part of this time together, but just wanted you to have that to take away with you. I grew up about 4 blocks away from here. And my brother still lives in the house that we grew up in, over on 33rd. So this is my neighborhood. And I am very concerned over juvenile crime, juvenile violence that has taken hold of our country, but we're here specifically to talk about South King County and even more specifically the city of Auburn. So I want you to be able to hear from Chief Caillier about what the Auburn Police Department is working on. And then we'll move into the Q&A portion. And if you have ideas, things that you want to share, that's what this is for. And I'll be honest with you, if you want to yell at me, it's okay to yell at me. I am in this position because I am responsible for our community, and it's a gift that I have been given. And along with that gift comes the responsibility of hearing from you whatever it is you have to say. I will ask that we keep it in a reminder that we are in a house of worship, but I am here to listen to what you have to say as well. So thank you again for being here today, taking your time. It shows your care and compassion and passion for this community. And those that are not with us today, it doesn't mean that they care any less. It's just that they may have had something else, a priority that kept them from here today. So I know the room would be filled and overflowing. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm much less eloquent than the mayor, but I want to thank you all for being here. I know there are things that have been happening in the community that affects everyone's safety. One thing I would like to talk about is when we investigate things, things are not localized just to Auburn in this community. Things that happen here they're a regional issue. All of South King County, the recent trends that we're seeing of shootings and things that have happened here have ties all the way up to Seattle with these groups that end up in Auburn for specific reasons. It's hard to get that message across, especially with the latest shooting. This latest shooting we've had down here was targeted to a specific person and was targeted for reasons of where that person's associated with and what he does, I guess, is the best terminology. And so when we deploy resources, we are not just deploying resources here from Auburn PD. We're in contact with our colleagues in Kent, in Federal Way, Seattle, because we have to take a regional approach because these issues with juveniles are not just from here. Some of the recent shootings we've had in the north part of town involve subjects who came to Auburn. and then the incident just happened to happen in Auburn. But both parties showed up here for whatever reason in our city and committed these acts. So I can answer some questions about the incidents when we get to that point in the program. I don't want to go into too specific details. We've made several arrests. We actually arrested an individual yesterday who was part of one of the groups responsible for shooting down here, not this specific one, although there probably is ties to the incident that just happened. He was tied to another incident that happened on 37th and A Street recently. And so a lot of these incidents, they're all connected probably to only about 15 to 20 juveniles. And it's happening throughout our region with these individuals. So when we talk about juvenile crime in Auburn, the actual number of juveniles committing crimes or being involved is actually pretty low compared to the rest of the county. But some that are involved in very violent incidents. And so that's kind of what the main message I want to get across is not to just label every juveniles out there. They're not a problem. The majority of the kids in Auburn are great kids. They're doing great things in our schools. Our schools are safe. It's kind of a small core that's committing a lot of these crimes throughout the region. And that's who we focus on, and we try and get as much evidence as we can in each of these investigations. Part of the issue we deal with is because these groups are tied together, and these groups, for lack of better terminology, are not very friendly to law enforcement, or trying to get information when these groups are pitted against each other is difficult to get enough to actually make an arrest, follow through with prosecution and conviction. So that's some of the issues that we deal with, and so we try and get as much information as we can to proceed with filing cases and getting charges that don't involve maybe specific person cooperating with us. To that end, we use a lot of technology in Auburn. Some of the things I wanted to highlight, we recently started installing, it's the group we contract with is Flock. They're cameras that kind of are throughout the city. We have begun the installation process with about 6 of those. There's several more that are going to be put up in various places in the city. We have from our traffic cameras that are already in place to monitor traffic movement. We have that technology as well to track vehicles, people throughout the city. And those, other than our city traffic cameras, they eventually will be tied through. But like Flock Safety is a nationwide system. So we can actually track like certain vehicles that we may be looking for. We can identify suspect vehicles pretty quickly. We can follow them throughout the region now once we get in contact with our partners in neighboring cities, because they also have these same type of cameras. So we build up evidence that way quite a bit, and that's how we learn that it's not just a local Auburn problem. A lot of our crimes involve stolen vehicles that are taken from elsewhere in King County and Pierce County, and then they end up in Auburn in these stolen vehicles. But now we can backtrack and try and get all the information to make as best a case as possible that we can. So it's a regional approach that we take. We don't do a lot of publication and talk about ourselves a lot in the press. That's just kind of the nature of police as a whole. And so, it's kind of lacking on our part, I guess, for getting that information out to the general public, that we do have those resources that help. We are limited with officers that we have here, but that becomes, for lack of better terminology, kind of a force multiplier, because now you have better resources for those officers to use. So wanted to get that information out there. Again, we are doing as much as we can. We make arrests when we can. A lot of the times with juvenile arrests, they don't get publicized. And we work with King County to make sure the right charges are getting filed, that they have all the information they need. But a lot of the juvenile arrests that we do make don't become public knowledge because of privacy laws, things of that nature with juveniles. A lot of the adults that we arrest, once they're booked into jail, actually charged, that's usually when the names get released. People can see the charges on like our jail website for SCORE, if it's a misdemeanor for King County jails. So people get information that way. We usually don't release names of individuals that we arrest, just for some privacy concerns as well. So, but I'll be happy as we go along to answer any questions, but kind of I wanted to give just a brief rundown of what we've been doing lately and what we're seeing lately. So, and just to introduce some of my counterparts here real quick, I have Assistant Chief Sam Betts. Stand up, Sam. There's people that can't see you. And then Commander Todd Byers, he's a commander of our investigations division. And then Colby Crosley, he's our PIO. He's on the end. So.
Now, I'd like to do a community impact part if anybody would like to speak. I know Molly would like to come up and speak. Kind of give some personal stories on where you've been during incidents like this. This is going to happen before the Q&A. I'd like to start out by saying that, I have family and friends that are in this neighborhood. Like literally my friend, the reason why I'm doing this is because his house was shot. A bullet went an inch under his head. He lives across the street from that house that it happened at. My nephew sells lemonade on the corner. I grew up in this community. I wasn't the best youth growing up, but I was held accountable for the stuff that I did as a youth, and I was able to turn my life around. And now I own a business in Texas, own a business in Washington. I employ people of my community. I do good work around the community. I'm holding events like this, and I just want the youth to know that you can turn your life around. I specifically have a problem with two programs and two things that allow youth to commit these crimes. There is one problem where a youth in King County can commit 4 gun crimes. They can have 4 gun charges in King County, as well as there's a program called Step Up where they get a counselor and they get these secondary people that join in, and it allows them to be free of prosecution. The prosecutor's office literally doesn't even have the right, and a lot of the times they have to work with these Step Up people. So at the end of the day, we can say whatever we want to the legislators and the representatives and the prosecutors, but it is the highest power that we're trying to deal with, and we need to fundamentally change these things and these laws, and the only way that we're going to get there is by having meetings like this and coming together and actually trying to make a difference and having our voice heard. So right now I'd like to start the community impact stuff. If Molly, you'd like to come up and give a little speech.
Hello, everybody. First off, I hope everybody will join me in giving a round of applause to this young man for bringing us all together. So, I just turned 40 years old. I was the first baby born in Auburn, Washington in 1984. I was in the newspaper. I feel like I'm dating myself, but I remember the times when I was told I needed to come home when the lights came on outside. I was 6 years old, going all the way down to Main Street, going to convenience stores all by myself. I know we live in a different world now. However, I'm now a 40-year-old woman who doesn't even feel safe in this community, walking her dog in the middle of the day, and that's a problem. I lived in this community until I was 8 years old when my father had molested me and then my mother abandoned me. And it was this community that protected me and saved me. I found a wonderful woman who took me on, and I lived right off 272nd. I've lived in this community for 4 years, Brandon Park, and I just bought my first house off the other M Street. I want to make this community a better place. I really appreciate what the police do at all times. However, they're being called, because I have called them, for mental health crisis. Last year, I was driving on I Street, minding my own business. A car slowed down in front of me. I had noticed there was a homeless person, and he was kind of acting erratic. As soon as the car in front of me turned, I started to accelerate. He jumped on top of my car and was yelling swear words and wanting me to kill him. When I called dispatch and I told them what had happened, I told them I lived around the corner, they said, "This is normal for that area." I about lost my mind on that. I also had I have a lot of run-ins with the homeless. There's a woman who is always in mental crisis who throws herself on the street in front of cars. I've called dispatch and they've told me there's nothing they can do until she gets hit by a car. Our police officers need help. We need to demand that if we're going to welcome these people who do need our help, who are homeless, who are in mental crisis, that we also demand that there is support for them, who are stationed with the police, who can go out and assess if a police officer really needs to be involved. But I challenge each one of you guys as well. It's really easy in this day and age to be like, not my problem. It is our problem, and now it's come into our community. If you see something, say something. Be annoying. I can't tell you how many times I'm sure the cops hate me, or dispatch at least. Anytime I see something, I call them. I had a homeless person on my property, going through my garbage can, looking for a wire hanger to get into a car. I called the police. They ended up arresting his girlfriend on several warrants. After that, I was told by the police that I'm not allowed to harass the homeless. It was none of you, and it was during COVID, like the start of COVID. But we need to stand our ground. We need to demand more of our leadership. And I appreciate all of the leadership that has shown up today to make this a priority. But us as a community, say something if you see it. That's the only way anything's going to change. If it's not documented, they don't know where to send additional units to maybe patrol. Get your communities involved. Next Tuesday is National Night Out. How many of your guys' communities have events going on in your neighborhoods? 1, 2, 3. Go to the city hall meetings. Go to the Auburn council meetings. My new neighbor is a city councilwoman named Hanan. She is also my HOA president. But I made her aware of this and told her what was going on. But if you have the connections, just do whatever you have to do. Make it known we're not going to stand for this anymore. And I do appreciate you guys showing up and being here, and I know every day that you guys come in here, you put on a badge, you don't know if you're coming home to your family members. And that is a big sacrifice that a majority of us in this room won't make. So you should be proud that you do that, and I am proud that I live in a community where I have police officers who are willing to do that. So, thank you.
Hi, my name's Dinah. My husband and I were able to buy our first house 6 years ago on I and 2nd over by the police station. We loved that little house. It was so cute. We saved up our money for years to buy it. Shortly after we moved in, someone busted out my van and stole all my art supplies. I'm an artist. And when we called the police said, well, you should have had cameras. There's nothing we can do. Did they take fingerprints? Nothing. There was just nothing they could do. After that, my daughter went to Auburn High School, which I think it's funny that you would say that they're a safe school. That is such a joke. There has to be an officer stationed at that school all the time because a lot of the kids will tell you themselves that they are connected with or identify with gangs. My daughter, November 27th, 2022, went to go down the street to hang with this girl that we thought was a good kid, and the girl wasn't home, and being in teenage fashion, she decided to not tell her parents and go hang out with the other kid who we didn't care for. And, she's 17. They do that. We've all done that. But in her case, that led to them going to Sunset Park in the nicer part of Auburn, and her getting shot because they thought she was part of the other gang or part of a gang. She got shot in the hip, which I got the call around midnight saying, "Is this the parent of this person?" Yes, I am. My husband and I shot up out of bed and, of course, raced. I definitely broke the speed limit driving to Harborview. When I drove to Harborview, there's my daughter. She had been beaten up and shot. And I didn't make a big ol', it didn't make the news hugely. You can look it up on the Auburn PD thing. I think it was on December 1st that they reported about it. Those people have never been found that shot my daughter. And after she had a surgery and was in the hospital for an entire week and had a rod put through her leg with a steel rod from her knee up to her hip so that she could regrow the bones, the stupid screw broke 6 months later. So her decision, unfortunately, to be a teenager and go have fun with her friend turned into now she will forever have this in her leg. And this person that shot her is still out there. I'm sorry, I don't know what the answer is. But I will say that now my kid, who was once very vibrant, spends most of her time in her room. And when she did go out last December for New Year's Eve to go walk down to the neighbor's house, different neighbor, so they could hang out for New Year's and watch the fireworks from our house, because you can see all the fireworks from the upstairs bedrooms. She was held at gunpoint from a kid down the street. I know exactly where he lives. I know who he is. And you know what happened to him? He got a slap on the wrist. He held her at gunpoint with a gun to her head, stole all her stuff, and the other kids, at least one of them was smart enough to throw her stuff in the bushes because she grew up here, but we didn't. We came here 6 years ago, hoping that we could live in this beautiful 100-year-old house and have this community that I was so excited about, because I see the art, and as an artist, I love it. I love my neighbors. I do believe this can be a better community. When I look at it with my rose-colored glasses, I see that there are people here who care. But when I look at my daughter and my 10-year-old son, who every time a firework goes off, he thinks someone got shot in the neighborhood, this is a serious problem. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's very heartbreaking to be the parent of one of these kids. And the kid who, by the way, held her at gunpoint, who still lives down the street, got a slap on the wrist. He got a little ankle bracelet. And then now he's running around and goes to her work. This is a problem because they don't have any consequences if they're a minor. Nothing happens. A little spank. Oh, go home, you naughty boy. No, we got to do something more than that. These kids need to know that there's consequences for carrying guns around, that there's consequences for shooting people, there's consequences that are far more reaching that can stay on your record.
Good morning or good afternoon. My story is about the seniors in the senior buildings, okay? And the corporations that are running these buildings and what they're not doing to protect their seniors. It's gotten me so upset. I've even called the police station and asked them if I could talk to somebody who could come out to our building to help us with learning how to keep things safe or being safe. The lady told me, we ain't got no time for that. And that's from the Auburn police station, okay? I called. I've done so much because we got people in there that are 80 years old. We got people in there that are 100 years old. I'm 70, and I got to come outside when I go in the parking lot. If I won't go out unless I got my pistol, because I've seen so many things happen. I work. I get off from work. I've caught them looking in the cars. Caught them taking off, trying to go under the car to take whatever. And then I call the police, and the police They get there 3 hours later. Because we not important. We the ones that worked. We paying our rent. We doing everything. But nobody wants to come in and help us. The management is lousy because of the corporation is not a Better Business Bureau accredited. It's just a company. And they setting the rules. Who's over them? I've been asking this question for a year. Who's over them? Who do I need to talk to? This is getting to be ridiculous because we were told when we were growing up that when we got older, those were going to be our golden years. I ain't seen no gold yet, okay? And it's like I lived in a house. I had a husband. He died of cancer. When he passed, I knew I had to get rid of things and cut it back and move out, sell the house, because I couldn't afford this by myself. So I did that. And I came to the state of Washington from California. I fell in love with it by making day trips up here. Me and my husband used to come up here and go to the crab pot. We stay in Birmingham or Brimington, whatever it's called. And then we would come to the crab pot, eat that day, and leave the next day. And he fell in love with it. And I thought this would be the place for me to go because this is where he loved. He thought it was so beautiful, and I do too. But the way they letting the corporations run these senior buildings is ridiculous because they are doing things that make the seniors feel like they don't count. Like they don't matter. I started a community meeting in my building. I'm the one that comes out and speak for them because a lot of them are scared of retaliation from management if they speak on anything. We shouldn't have to live like that. We shouldn't, and nobody wants to help us. And I've called everybody. I done bugged everybody to where they don't even answer my calls now. And that's all right because now I'm emailing. And that's another thing. Everybody wants them to email. A lot of seniors don't have an email and don't know how to email. So how can you get in touch with an office if you have no computer or you don't even know how to do it? And they say that's the only way you can talk to the manager. Somebody needs to step up and come out and tell the truth about what's going on with these senior buildings. I'm a caregiver. I work 6 days a week. I go in a lot of senior buildings. I thought it was just where I live at the Reserve at Auburn, but it's not. It's at a bunch of these senior buildings, the same crap that's going on in there, and it's a corporation that owns the building.
Hi, I'm Shalia McLaughlin. I'm on the school board here in Washington. Here in Auburn, and I'm not talking about school board stuff. I'm also a property manager, a landlord, and I work all of King County, North Pierce County, Kitsap County, Thurston County. There are cities all over this town, all over this state that have licensing laws for landlords, right? So if a landlord is licensed, as they should be, then if the police are called to that premises repetitively, the city can actually force an eviction. It happens in several cities. But I'm wondering, I know at one point, because I had to take the class, in South King County and in Auburn, there was a licensing law. And is that still in effect? And why is that not being monitored? Because I'm still a landlord down here, and I have properties that I've had to have the police called on a few times, and nothing comes of that licensing. Nothing is followed up with on that. So I guess my community, and I live in this community. I live right off of Main Street on West Main, and we have, we're downtown, so we have a lot of homeless that come through, and we're right by the interurban trail. And so I've always felt relatively safe in my neighborhood. Nothing scary, but lately there's been an uptick of unfamiliar people in the neighborhood. I work with the homeless. I feed the homeless. Over at Messiah Lutheran, I work with the Auburn Food Bank, so I'm surrounded by homeless people a lot and the mental health. But what I see as a landlord is that I don't have the ability to force an eviction on a tenant who's repetitively having issues. And if I as a landlord can't force that issue to get rid of a tenant, and I know a lot of this is state landlord-tenant law, and there's only so much we can do, but I think if the city were to actually follow through with what the permit says and make sure that landlords have those business licenses in place and, run a community meeting on that for landlords, it might help in a way so then the city could actually do something with the landlord to get rid of a problem tenant, a tenant who's in there who's having the police called on them repetitively or is firing shots off in the parking lot on New Year's Eve. So, I did have a bullet come through my house, dropped down through the ceiling, found it on my kitchen counter with a hole in the ceiling. So that was right after New Year's Eve in downtown Auburn. So just thank you for listening, and I do appreciate everything you do. Nancy, we've known each other for a long time, and I do appreciate everything that happens in the community. And this is a wonderful community. And I know that we've had school issues because we're parents, and we've got teenagers and hormones and everything else going on in school, but Auburn has a fabulous school district. And I don't say that as just a school board member. I say that as a parent who's graduated 3 kids out of Auburn High School and Auburn West, and had them come up through elementary school. But I think we as a community need to start focusing on wrapping ourselves around our kids. They don't have always a support system at home. They don't always have somebody who will step in and be their mentor or be their savior in a moment. So we as a community need to take that on. We need to be willing to step into somebody's life and help them out and get them in a place, whether it be interacting with the family, whether it be interacting with the kid. We can volunteer in classrooms. We can volunteer on playgrounds. We can volunteer to be mentors in our community and in our schools to give people and children somebody to look up to, somebody that looks like them, somebody that sounds like them, somebody that can see them as the human being that they are. And until we do that as a community, we're not really going to be able to solve this youth issue. Thank you.
I'm not going to rag on them all the time because normally I do call a lot when it comes down to license plates, and they take them and they're stolen cars, and they do come and get them. We do have a problem, and I live in the complex of the shooting, where we do have multiple drug houses that I guess nothing can be done. And I know that you guys are shorthanded. And my thing is because we have reported them over and over, because even the gang members go to that house. But I know you're shorthanded. I wish there was a way to increase the amount we have and untie your hands, because it's leaving us tied with nowhere to go and getting no help. I'm from LA, and I moved up here because green. I mean, you have so many trees that live on the same land and they're not killing each other. That's how I looked at it, because and there we're killed. But when I first moved into that complex, it wasn't that bad. And these are Section 8 apartments that are all getting to do whatever they want to do. And the activity, and then now the gangs are doing activity with them, and that caused, so this last shooting here all ties in with everything else with them. But so far, we haven't been able to get,
They've been evicted, so we have an apartment
Yeah, but
that'll
they're-
be in trouble for years. We have the
but they're
police come out.
still there.
They've been evicted, but because King County doesn't want
Right,
any
King
more
County.
homeless on the street, they have not been removed. And yes, there's some homeless that we need to help, but this has become an encampment in this apartment, non-stop.
But
Drug
also,
use
one of the gangs that were in this situation
that we,
gets dope from them.
and we're
Okay.
scared, but
Why have
we're really scared of being up here, but we're even scared of living over there. And my manager of Poppy, she says her hands are tied. Well, why can't we untie her hands and get these people out? I mean, there's broken windows. I mean, it's nonstop, 24/7. open drug use, open
Oh, right
selling,
outside.
open, and they had Section 8. They worked really hard the past, 2 years trying to get them evicted. They get evicted. These people, they got evicted. And King County said no. So
Can't put 'em on
now,
the street. Now we
they
have
get
to
to live
live
up
there.
there for free, do their drug dealing, nonstop cars. And as she said,
It's
we
ridiculous.
see, yeah. So,
It's just like, there was an officer that I used to be able to, because I find strays and I grab them, so I would call the non-emergency, and his name was Ray, and he'd come and pick up the animal for me and take it to the pound. And I thought, well, I've never seen a police officer ever do that. But I mean, it's not like they're bad. I just feel like we don't have enough police force here. It's too short-handed, because even if you call, and something that can be going on right now, you don't get there in time, unless it's a shooting. But a lot of this stuff would stop if we could stop everything else from going on. If we could make it where it's like, I mean, we report that suspicious activity and stuff and so forth, and that's what's
online.
been
Yeah,
done.
you can do that online.
Yeah. So,
and I'll be honest, I had hip surgery in March, and I am so tired of taking a chance and rolling out of my bed, hiding between my closet and my bed in a fetal position, waiting for the shooting to stop. And then the other night, and then listening for the cops, and then crawling into the bathroom and just staying there hiding with my dogs. I moved over there across the street in 2011. And it's...
I have to
so-
sit.
Okay.
I
thank
just
you.
wish that you would, if there was a way, I know that you're the mayor, I don't really know a lot about you, I
But-
wish we had a more of a police force. I know it has to do with budgets and on and on, but it's like, we need to get some of these millionaires
be honest,
to get
everybody-
some of these more officers in our
We
community.
can't move out. None of us across the street have the money to move.
Hey, Mayor, how you doing? My problem is not with kids. My problem is with adult strangers. There was a shooting up on Lee Hill the other night, and just before the shooting, officers came in my community looking for a stolen bike. And while we're there, I let them know that, there's a lot of strange activity going on, a lot of strange movement. Could you guys come and do a little bit more drive-bys? He said, duly noted. The next night, someone gets shot. So I would like to see more officers do more drive-bys because they're feeling too comfortable doing whatever it is that they're doing. Another thing, our common ground, all the homeowners, people are moving their property lines back, building cabanas and just taking common ground and just move. And I figure if they're doing that, maybe they should be paying taxes because we all pay taxes on the square footage. So if these people are just moving their property line back, building cabanas and occupying common ground that we are all paying for, pay dues and all of that, and property managers is not doing anything about it. They're making excuses, saying, "Oh, we can't come out. Oh, we work off site." But I'm constantly sending pictures, telling the property management all the things that's going on, and they're doing nothing. So if these people are stealing all this land, I think they should be paying taxes.
Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Lily Castro. I am a member of the community, a mother, and also a homeowner. I couldn't purchase a house in Auburn because the prices are outrageous, but I live in Pacific. So all my children attended Auburn School District. My kids, my 3 kids, were students here in the daycare before school and after school when they were younger. So when I heard about the shooting, it really hit me close because my kids, like I said, they were members of this daycare. And I couldn't even imagine the pain of those mothers that drop off your kids in a safe place and circumstances around affect the safety of those kids. I am also here because This bothers me a lot. I don't think there's enough resources for youth to be safe, to be doing good things. What do we expect when we kick students out of their houses? We kick students out of the schools. What do we expect? Exactly what's happening right now. We need to start collaborating, all of us, community, schools, and government. We need to get together. And like the school board member mentioned before, it makes a difference going to school and volunteer there. It makes a difference be the advisor of a club after school and just open and offer that space for the youth, especially middle school and high school, where they're really going through a lot of issues. But my concern is, like, I drop off my kid because, like I said, my kids attend the district. I drop off my kid across the street to go see his friend, and then they walk to Game Farm to play soccer. I don't even feel safe anymore to do that. Because this time happened here, next time where it's gonna happen? We don't want another time. I'm also working in a community-based organization, and we lost one of the kids that, there was another shooting. It was a senior. We need to do more for our community. And I get it that maybe people think we need more law enforcement. No, we need more of us, more of the community. We cannot leave everything on one bucket. We all need to work together. And my suggestion is that we need to do meetings about safety. I don't know, I know your agenda might be tight, but this is a concern. And we need to do this either monthly or quarterly, but we need to start getting together. Because I also suggested before that I'm Latina, and there is a community organization that is called Latino Civic Alliance. And there's other more that they work with gang members or Latino gang members or youth that is on the risk to become a gang member. But nobody really cared at that time. So I hope now you really see that you need to start working on this and engaging organizations who are professionals in this area. But like I said, we need to start getting together about the safety because this is getting really ridiculous. And yes, my car has been broken, and my car, and my house, and homeless, but that's not the point today and right now. What I'm here for is to talk about the shootings and the violence that is happening out there. What are we doing? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for speaking. We're going to do a couple more. After this, we got to move into Q&As. But before that, I would like to say that these crimes that are happening, because they're dealing with youth and nobody gets prosecuted, it is a victimless crime. People have damages to they have health bills, they have damages to their property and stuff like that. So me and my company, Simply Installations, we're going to be donating $20,000. We're going to start a new fund, and we're going to be helping the Auburn community repair these damages to their home and also help pay for medical bills and stuff like that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Latham. I have 2 children in the Auburn School District, one at Dick-Scobie and one at Cascade. I live close to Dick-Scobie Elementary. And over the last 8 years that we've lived in this home, every year there is more and more shootings close to our schools, close to our children. Our children are in fear to walk to school. With the proximity of us living towards the school, we do not get buses. So we have a third of a mile. My daughter will not walk to school. She's terrified. Every time I hear sirens while I'm working at home, I fear what's going on. I've lost count of how many shootings have caused lockdowns for my kids in this school district and in this town. I want to know why this is the first time we're addressing the community issue with violence in our children and it's impacting us. Why aren't we talking about this? Why did we have to bring you here? Why didn't you address us first? I want to see change for us coming together. I want us to make this a community where our children feel safe to go to school, where my son feels comfortable playing baseball at Brandon Park. I'm sure a lot of you saw that shooting where all those 16, 17-year-old children had to drop to the ground while 30, 40 shots rapidly fire off. It is unacceptable. Where did we address the community after that? I think we need to band together, and I appreciate every one of you for showing up during a work day. I took off time to be here, and I'm shaking because I am so tired of this. Thank you for coming together. Let's protect this community. Let's protect our children. Let's save our children. Thank you.
I would also like to remind everybody that this is the first event that I've ever thrown like this. I have never done anything like this before. I just felt impacted because it directly impacts all of us. It impacts my business, it impacts my friends, it impacts my family. So this is the first of many. I'm going to try to make it as big as possible. And I'm also going to try to expand outside of Auburn because King County essentially is the problem and it goes to the state. We can only do so much in our small little town, but we do need to make our voices heard to the county and the state. So.
Hi. I've lived in Auburn for about 8 years now, and when we first moved in, it was a very safe and feeling good type of town. When my daughter was 9 years old, she took a perfume that I didn't want to buy for her at the store. In order to turn that around, I stopped at a police station in Kent and had a police officer talk to her about it. At the time, the police officer said, when children misbehave, we put the parents in jail. Why don't we do that again with the minors that do the shooting and do all of this violence? Let's make them accountable because it's their product of what we're seeing now. And it's like nobody's accountable. Yes, somebody is. Somebody is. They are having their lives, going to party, going to work, going whatever it is they do. They're too tired to take care of the kids. Don't have them then. But we are addressing everything to the society. What about us? Let's be accountable, us. Let's put the parents in jail. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. And before I speak, I want to thank you, Mayor Backus and Chief, for allowing us to join. And I want to thank all of you for the grace because I am not a resident of Auburn, but certainly my heart is here with you. And if it's all right, I'll just ask for your grace to offer just a few words. My name is Eleuthera Lish, and I'm the director of the new Regional Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And I heard a lot of mention of the responsibility of King County, and I appreciate Mayor Backus handing me the flyer right when I sat down to make sure that I understood that it is a local government issue, it is a county government issue, it is a state issue, and it's also a federal issue. And the White House now has the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention that's led by survivors and are looking for solutions that can help at the state and the county and the city level at each municipality. And so I pledge and commit that first I'm here to listen. And I have heard so many important things that we can tie to our work and partner with your city leadership and you as a community in ways that we can be helpful. I first also want to say I'm really sorry what happened to your daughter, and I'm sorry to see the continued effect of that trauma on your young son. And I'm sorry that that continues to have parents and citizens and community members, and especially elders as well, concerned and here today, to your point, taking time off in the middle of a workday to make this a priority. A couple things I want to point out: that government can't do this alone. Law enforcement can't do this alone. Community can't do this alone. And philosophically, we offer that together we can end gun violence, and it will take all of us playing our own unique individual roles It will take innovations. I heard Molly, you talk about co-responding for law enforcement to have other professionals help support when there's, for instance, a mental health crisis. We also invest in community-led solutions of folks who come from experiences like the young people who are shooting and have transformed their lives, and they're now able to be credible messengers to make connections with that maybe 15 or 20 young people that are the nexus of involvement in violence, and they can connect to them and they can help build skills so they can transform their lives and turn away from violence. That's one part of a solution. We also distribute firearm safety equipment and education. It's important if we have guns, for responsible gun owners, we lock up our guns. Guns are the leading cause of death for children and teens in the United States of America. Safe firearm storage in your vehicle contributes. Stolen weapons are in the pipeline of causing harm. There's also proliferation of weapons. There's a lot of guns out there. And young people are young people. I really appreciated you said that, a 17-year-old's going to be a 17-year-old. Their brain development requires that they know how to take risks at a certain age, because when they get to my old age, we're not willing to take those risks anymore. So when we're young, we take those risks. And when we don't have access to opportunity, positive recreation, positive after-school programming, positive prevention activities, when there aren't people who can do intervention, when there's not enough support for suppression, when there's not enough support for reentry, our young people don't see the example and they don't have hope. And if they don't have hope, they will do what teenagers are going to do. They're going to take risks. So I just want to offer that we are pledging our commitment to continue to partner and to investigate how we can more deeply partner and bring resources together, how we can ask the state and the federal government to support the effort, how we can support the community gathering, and community is the cure. Violence is a public health issue. I represent gun violence prevention in the Department of Public Health. The Surgeon General, for the first time in history, announced a couple of weeks ago that gun violence across the nation is a public health issue. We take that seriously. But public health is all of our responsibility. We've got to take care of ourselves, take care of those around us. So I want to just say again today, together we end gun violence, and we're part of that together, and we're certainly willing to do our part.
I would also like to shout out our senator for being here. I really appreciate it for coming out.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Philbrick. I am a parent. I have 2 kids in school here in Mountain View, Lee Hill Elementary. I also work at Cascade Middle School. I've lived in Auburn for 19 years up on Lee Hill. When we first moved to Lee Hill, it was just the nicest, quietest little community. And now it's just sirens all the time. And like the other night, they had a community, like a movie, an outdoor movie at the Lee Hill Park. My 10-year-old wanted to go, but there's no way. There's no way I'm gonna go. It doesn't feel safe to me. I also have been to 2 memorial services in the last week and a half for youth, which is really, really difficult. I just don't understand when do we start holding, like they were saying, the parents accountable? I am married to a law enforcement officer. I know you're understaffed. What it boils down to, people, is we have to vote, right? We need to vote for more law enforcement. These are things that we need to have on the ballot. Think about those things when you're voting, even next week. These guys can only do what they can do. There's only so many of them. And I know I want my husband to come home every night, just as I'm sure their families want them to come home every night. So we need more help. And I don't know if Auburn, do we have any gang type? That's what task force. Do we have anything like that in Auburn? Okay. Because they used to have one in King County, right? Yes, back in the day, I think they did, yeah. Anyway, that's all I want to say is please just think about these kids that are dying. And when are we where are they getting the guns? That's the biggest thing too. They're posting pictures of themselves on social media with guns. And where are their parents? And where are they getting them from? That's the biggest thing. Yeah, I'm sure they are stealing them. It's just really sad to see.
Hello, I am an educator in the Auburn School District. I'm a parent of 2 high school students that go to 2 different high schools in the district as well. On June 29th, 2 of my sons' very good friends were shot just down the street from where they live. One has recovered physically, the other is still recovering physically. In fact, he has a feeding tube that he'll probably have to have for several months, and has been out of the hospital for about 2 weeks now. But he's been staying with his grandmother because he's afraid to go back to his home. And I think that's probably one of the saddest things, not only to watch as a parent of a kid who spent lots of nights at your home, to see them go through this and to see their families go through this. And I don't know if we think about that enough when we hear these kinds of things happen in the news, and until it affects you personally in some capacity, we don't realize the effects of this on our kids and their parents. He doesn't feel safe to even come back to school in the fall, so he'll probably be transferring. And it's just sad for me to see my son and his friends who have rallied around him, and supported him, feel like what else can we do, to help? And I don't know what the answer is, but it's sad to me that a child doesn't feel safe in his own home. Another point I want to bring up is I apologize, but also thank Pioneer Elementary, because my son and his friends come play football on your turf field a lot in the summer and in the spring. And after the recent incident that happened at the bus stop during the early morning daylight time, I told my son, I don't think you should go play football for a while there. I think you should take a break. And it's sad that I feel like I have to say that, because I think Auburn is safe in a lot of ways, but also, like, when these things keep happening, I have to be able to protect my kid and his friends, because something has already happened to 2 of them. And I know that we in the schools want to help and we want to support and we love on kids so much, but once they leave our building, that's when we don't have the same opportunities to connect with them. So that's why I think it is important for our community to figure out ways to work with our schools and our kids outside of our building. Thank you.
My name is Claire Wilson, and I am the senator of the 30th Legislative District, and I have an Auburn address. So some of you I represent, many of you I don't, because I am 87% of the 30th is Federal Way, but I also cover Algona, Pacific, a little bit of Des Moines, a little bit of Kent, and some of Auburn, Maine. So the conversation today is critically important, and Jacob, thank you for reaching out to my office. I'm happy to be here. I'll tell you, in the Senate, I sit as Chair of Human Services, and in the Senate that covers all human services, all child welfare, all juvenile justice, and corrections, not the judicial side, but what I call the climate and the culture about what's happening inside our institutions and facilities, as well as what happens about reentering and reintegration into the community, because 97% of individuals that are in our jails and prisons come back out. And we need to make sure that they're not coming out in worse shape than they're going in. The other thing I just want to share is I've been really focused on the issues of juveniles. Conversation that you're talking about today, 11 to 13-year-olds are hurting my heart, have worked and lived in this community forever and care deeply about children and families. But what I also know is right now 11 to 14-year-olds are the ones that we're having the biggest issues with, but also the ones that have unaccompanied minors. And there aren't adults in their world right now, whether the adults have left them or they've left adults because of circumstances. The pandemic has played a role in that. So many other things have played a role that we have these young people out there without adults in their lives. And that is critically important. So as we think about our unhomed and unhoused youth, we've got to think about, as a community again, how we wrap our arms around folks and how we provide services and supports. Because I'll be honest with you, our systems have never been set up to get people out of them. They've been created to keep people right where they are. And so you have to help me convince not only myself, because you don't have to convince me, you have to help me convince 48 other senators and 98 other representatives that every single individual, every child is worth the investment, whether it's substance use disorder, whether it's, right now we have opioid crisis going on. We have so many issues that I'm here for solutions, and I am so appreciative of the conversation. My notebook's full. My door is always open, and as a community, we have to come together. I spend my world in early learning, sat on the school board in Federal Way for 8 years before I got into the Senate, and have 2 kids of my own that I worry about every single day. So just know that I'm here, and I'm appreciative of the chief being here, as well as officers, as well as the mayor, and also the sheet, because it is all of our responsibilities, and that sometimes gets kind of confusing about whose role is what, and then how do we all play together to create the best kind of community we can for all individuals, youth, adults, seniors, and anyone else, especially vulnerable folks. So just again, thanks so much, and we'll continue to invest and make sure we're doing the things we can do to make our communities as safe as we can. Gun violence is very disturbing to me as well. Ghost guns, there's just all kinds of things, and every day I learn more and more that we need to do to keep our community safe. So thanks so much.
I appreciate your time, and I'll try to be as brief as I could. My name is Igor. I immigrated from Russia to the United States about 11 years ago. I didn't have kids at that time, but I knew that I wanted my kids to live in a country where fair, reasonable, common sense laws were respected and enforced, as opposed to Russia, my home country, where they would not have future. Before moving to the United States, I had strong belief in the American dream, as well as the justice system and law enforcement. Again, relative to Russia, it's so much higher standard. Today, I see that our police is put in a very difficult position. Most of their staff, if not all, are doing their best to serve and protect, as they're pledged to do. I have to say that my personal experience with police is slightly different than some other speakers, because I called the police many times. They did show up, maybe not immediately, maybe several hours after, but I understand you're understaffed, under-resourced, so. And they risk their lives every day to keep us safe, keep arresting criminals who are then often just released on bail by our judges because the laws are such. And our recent legislation around 2020 has made it even harder for the police officers to do their job well, in my opinion. I understand that it may be very discouraging for the law enforcement to operate in such environment. I urge the police to stay strong and keep doing their job, despite that the rest of the system is being broken. Please don't give up and don't become a part of the problem our state, community, county are facing today. Specifically about the incident that took place on Sunday, it's a miracle that nobody in that shooting died, considering how many shots were fired. It's crazy. We are lucky that people were only injured, and people were involved in this, for the most part. So there was actually at least 3 other shootings in our area in July alone, some resulting in death. In my own cul-de-sac, there was an illegal discharge of 7 bullets no longer than half a year ago, and I believe I recognize the face of an officer who came to my neighbor's house, did the breach, and unfortunately, the person who was caught eventually got not prosecuted, and I saw their direct relative with the same firearm again. Now, I respect the Second Amendment rights, and as a gun owner myself, because I want to protect my family, I want everyone to be held accountable for their illegal actions, whether it involves the firearm or not. I want to stress that this is not a gun problem per se. Take a look at UK. They don't have guns for the most part, they have knives. Kids still do bad things to each other. It's not about the tool, it's about psychology, it's about the environment we live in, it's about the community. And as a parent of two kids, of two daughters, I believe it's a two-way road. We as parents need to do both. Like, we need to get the kids involved into activities, make sure they are loved, they are cared about, but also if they don't behave, they have to be punished in some way. It's stupid to say that they only need to be taken care of and organized and like entertained for all the time. It's not life. It's like, wake up, people. It's not like it's supposed to work. So I was trying to think what could work as a solution, so I have only two questions at this point. There was information about the juvenile who got shot on Sunday, that he was a gang member, and he was armed himself during the time of shooting. Was there an arrest? Were there any charges? Was he charged with any crimes? Or we should expect this person to be back very, very soon, terrorizing the streets? That's one question. Another question would be, what can the community do to help you? If you need more staff, then I demand our city council and mayor personally to not approve the budget for the next year until it adjusts for more staff. And I don't know the numbers, but this should maybe it should be made public, like how many people you think we need to have more so that you can patrol more actively and be more present in all the communities and address more issues, not necessarily as severe as what's being called gun violence, just violence, severe violence. So maybe be more public about your needs and how we can help. Thank you.
First, can I just say thank you to everyone who took the time to speak. And again, as has been said, I am so sorry for what happened to your daughter. You should never have to worry about a child going outside and getting shot. I was talking to her saying that she should never have to, none of us should ever have to worry about our children going outside and being shot. That's not okay.
My name is Jessica, and I'm on the PAC, which is the Police Advisory Committee. And we have been talking a lot about the biggest issue is that the police department is understaffed. One of the things that we have noticed is that it's hard to get people to apply because it's scary to come here. So I do acknowledge that. The other issue is that we need more financial support for the police department. And we've looked into the city's finances, and we know that there are funds available. So what, can we have a commitment to get more funds for the police department?
So we are working on the next biennial budget right now, the 25-26 budget, and there will be budget in there for more police officers. I've been working with the chief, I've been working with the finance director. Budgets are tight right now, all over the state. There are many communities that are doing layoffs. We are not doing that. We are also, I think there are 7 or 8 positions right now in police that are vacant. There are others that are in the system that have been hired and are either awaiting the academy, they're in the academy, they're on field training. So it's from the time that we offer a position in the police department to a person, it's about a year before they are boots on the ground, ready to go by themselves. And it's a huge investment. But this community is worth the investment. I committed several months ago that the police department, there will be additional officers in the upcoming budget. As I say, budgets are tight. So sometimes when you say you're looking at the budget, it's more than just one simple piece of it, right? Because we have streets. You want to be able to flush your toilet. You want to be able to have clean drinking water. There are a lot of things that you want to have. The Parks Department, when we're talking about prevention for ensuring that our children have things to do in the community, we have to make sure that there are parks programs, that there are opportunities for youth. It is not one simple thing. We cannot look at this issue in a vacuum. We have to look at everything in the community, as well as looking inward to each one of us, as has been said. But there are commitments that there will be additional officers hired, and I want to get the officer vacancies that we currently have. I want to get them hired too, right? And we are doing signing bonuses for officers.
Mayor?
Yes.
I also add that the state this session added money, so for the city I can pay for a certain percentage of training individuals that went through the Criminal Justice Training Center, and the new legislation is the state covers 100% of the cost, and we've also opened up 4 new criminal justice training centers, and they're closer to home for a lot of folks across the state, and the folks that will bring in more individuals that are close by. They don't have to leave their homes and stay somewhere for 6 weeks to get training. And so this, in partnership with the city, is the work I think that we're doing together to try to increase the number of individuals that are in communities looking after public safety and looking after individuals who live there.
Thank you, Senator. We are fortunate that the Basic Law Enforcement Academy, BLEA, is located in Burien, and so our officers don't have as far to travel. Some of them are from outside of the area and do need to stay close by, but most of our officers do live within a reasonable distance.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add is we have talked in the PAC a lot about it is a national, state, and local problem for people wanting to come into law enforcement prevention. I don't know of any agency right now in the state that is fully staffed. And so we try to attract officers here. There are officers who want to come here and want to be here, so we do our best to attract them here and keep them here. So, but it's not unique to Auburn. I mean, it's a nationwide problem. Washington State itself has the lowest number of officers per capita in the nation, including, I believe, Puerto Rico. So, I mean, but you know, the things that go along with that is the pay for a Washington law enforcement officer is quite high compared to the rest of the nation. So, you know, the cost of living is also very high in Washington State. So, it is a matter of balancing budgets and what you can afford for staffing.
There's the highest number of government officials and contractors per person compared to the number of resources. Also, remember that we have an exorbitant number of city and government officials, but we do not have an exorbitant amount of people that work for the police station.
Okay, my question is for each. I need a police officer to come to our building, to one of our meetings, to assist us on how we can be a safe community in that building.
So we do have our community response team. They do that. There are a limited number of officers that are assigned there. So it may be a little bit, but you can definitely call down to our station. Officer Aaron Williams is in charge of our. Aaron Williams, he's one of our. An A. So he is an officer who's in charge. Like I said, right now that unit is down a little bit, but we do have we'll get you on a schedule. I mean, we do that for other locations throughout the city, including different apartment complexes right now. So.
We're also. Yes, ma'am. We are also setting up, there are 6 police districts in the city of Auburn. We are in the process of setting up community meetings in each one of those 6 districts. So you'll have an opportunity to come to another, most likely an evening event. Yes.
Yeah, we'll also throw more events like these so that we can hear from more of the community and also hear from other neighborhoods and stuff like that.
What does the leadership of Auburn need from the community to make this a safe community?
From my perspective, we need engaged community members. We need you to, this is a great opportunity to see some of the engagement, to have you here at this meeting. But Molly, as you said, nobody is ever going to think you are a bother for calling 911. Now, if you're calling 911 because there's a cat in your yard, they might think a little bit differently about that. But if you're calling because you see something happening in this community, we need you to call. I'll be honest with you, we've had community meetings before where everybody raises their hand and says, I called 911, or we'll ask, did you call 911? Yep, sure did. And we pull the stats from that neighborhood on how many calls have been made to 911 in the community over a period of time, and it is never anywhere near the number of people that raise their hand saying that they called. And we have the records. We have the ability to even check what was said on the call, right? So we need you engaged. If you want to come to a city council meeting and tell us what your issues are, the city council needs to hear it too. I'm in the community, I hear it. The council, just so you understand, they have 1/7 of a voice. They don't get to make decisions on their own. They have to make them as a collaborative group. As you'll see on that sheet, it's my responsibility and the chief's responsibility to follow the laws, the legislation that the council has created. Most of them are working members, right? We have a couple of retired members, but many of our council members are working members of this community. So engage with them. Let them know as well. We have a former council member here, John Holman. That was one of his big things, was we need to hear what's going on in the community. We need to be out there. We need to be engaged. So as you heard earlier, if you see something, say something. Call the office. If you have issues with evictions or something, let us know. If you have problems with a house that's not being maintained, let us know. We have code enforcement. We don't have enough people anywhere in the community. We have probably, with some of our part-time employees, we have about 500 employees of the city. And it's 128. How many are in police department?
Total staff, 140, and then commission, we're authorized 118.
So we do allocate budget to police, but again, that's one part of the answer, one part of the solution. We have to make sure that we're taking care of community in all ways possible. I don't think anyone has every answer. I am constantly learning too. So if something comes up, you have an issue, then please share your ideas. It is so important because the best ideas are going to come from the people who are experiencing the issues. And then, Chief, do you want to address the other?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of without knowing what case you're talking about as far as video, it would depend on like the quality of video, if identifications can be made about it. After we're done, I can look up, if you have a case number, I can look up the individual case to find out more detail.
I understand they have higher priorities. I'm just saying that the staffing has always been an issue. So I don't understand why we're saying, yeah, it's going to be a year from now before we can get 8 more people on. And staffing has always been a problem. It seems to me there's nothing happening that more staff would help. The other side
Well, some of the things you can do, we do have block watch programs within the city. The more eyes on the street, people seeing things, a lot of the times, the things that happen in the day, people that are engaged in those activities, whether they are a suspect or a victim, today they may be the victim, tomorrow they're the suspect, right? And so they don't give us information. So we rely on other people who may have been out and about to see things. So if you witness something like this, stick around. You can call 911. You can call our non-emergency line that said, hey, I saw this incident happen. And so we can get in contact with you. So we have more than just maybe these two groups who don't really want to interact with law enforcement. But we might be able to build enough for those types of cases to actually forward those charges up, and the prosecutor is more inclined to prosecute the more witnesses that can identify people without being, the suspect or the victim in those cases. It's not always the case, but.
We also need you to advocate. You heard Senator Wilson say it, right? And someone else talk about pay attention to who you vote for. We need you to advocate. They get so tired of hearing my voice. Senator Wilson is always very kind about taking my call when I have an issue. In fact, I remember one on police pursuits just a couple of years ago where I was sitting in a parking lot, she was outside of her meeting, and we were talking about how the issue was going to work. She didn't have the votes to get it passed. And so we went for another year before the pursuit bill could be changed. But they need to hear from more than me. We work together. Right? Part of the reason that I asked that sheet that you have that shows city, county, and state government is not just to say, oh, point a finger at King County because it's their problem, or point a finger at the state because it's their fault. It's to show you that we all have to work together because it's a system. And I will tell you that I believe the system is broken and there are things that need to be done. We have to work on it together. So advocate with your senator, advocate with your representatives, advocate with your King County council member, who would be Pete Von Reichbauer in King County here in Auburn. Talk with me, talk with our council members. We all have to work together. And my voice, they'll take my call, but mine is just one voice. If they get 100 calls, if they get 200 calls, they listen. It's important. Not a form letter, I will tell you right now. Please don't ever sign your name onto a form letter because it goes into a file that is never to be seen again by most people because it needs to be something personal, right? If we see 200 of the exact same form letter, we note that we've seen it, but if we read comments from someone who's had a specific incident, that is more impactful.
Who are you specifically saying we should be calling?
I said, call your senator's office, your representative's office, your King County council member's office, my office, council member's office.
I think the first question, what I will answer is yes, they do have gang ties. Majority of them. Why they come here, I don't know. I don't have the answer. Some of the subjects involved do reside here in various locations throughout the city. But it is a regional issue. Unfortunately, some of these same people who are perpetrating these actions will go to other cities. And so it is a regional issue. So, I don't know like the attraction of what brings them here. We do know that the incident that happened here that we're talking about specifically, it was because the individual who was the target of the shooting lives here.
Should more resources of your department be devoted to gang activity?
We have to manage what resources we have. We have a special investigation unit. That's one of their focuses. There is not a gang task force right now. And so there are requirements for actually labeling somebody as a gang member. So there's certain standards you have to meet. And there's certain requirements now if we have documented based on these standards, keeping that information contained. But the reality is that if there's gang tagging going on in an area, we can kind of determine what gangs are in the area, what gangs might be trying to move into the area. So there's different things that our officers are trained to recognize as far as gang activity.
Let's also, hold up. Let's keep questions centered around the mic instead of shouting out, and we're going to go in turn here. We're not going to shout out. We're not going to interrupt anybody else. People are waiting on the mic. If you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come to you in due time instead of shouting out.
Did I get both here?
Especially reporters, please. This is about community, not just about reporters.
Good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Mayor, Chief, and Senator. I was just curious, you say we have an allocation fund for the police department. I don't know how much that is, I don't think anybody knows what it is, but I just looked up something here online, and it said, does Washington State have a surplus? And it says here, between our robust rainy day fund and other money in reserve, there is more than enough money to cover all the state government's required expenses. The surplus should still be around 4.5 billion, not million, billion. Even after factoring in the higher costs of maintaining state services and programs for the next 2 years. Is there any reason for the governor not to finally take out a checkbook and write out, say, $2-3 million for the Auburn Police Department to get us up to standards where we need, instead of raising our taxes every time he gets voted down and raises our gas taxes, because he's allowed to?
So I can't speak to the state budget. You'll hear varying levels of budget, rainy day fund, that this next biennium will show a shortfall. It depends on the time and what is on, honestly, what the politics are at the time. I can't tell you what the state budget is. All we can do is look at our budgets. There are some grant opportunities that we look at. There's something called a COPS grant that will fund up to 75% of an officer's salary for 3 years? For 3 years. But then the city has to worry about that other 25% and the 100% after that third year is complete. So it sounds like great free money, but one-time money does not solve this issue. It has to be recurring budget, right? You can't use one-time money. It's just like in your own budgets, your household budgets. You can't use one-time money and expect it to continue to pay for something year over year.
We're being taxed every year. Some of that money is going into this slush fund, which is just sitting there making interest.
So I am not at the state level. I cannot address the answers for you on the state level. That would be your state representatives, your governor, that you need to address those with. Thank you. But I like your idea of a few $1 million coming to the Auburn Police Department.
There's no reason why you can't. No reason. It's just that the right person needs to appropriately ask it. Please, this is an emergency. Our children are dying from our streets.
Agreed, but remember the budget has to be approved by the Senate and the representatives. So it's, yes, ma'am.
I also am a member of the PAC, and we have been discussing this for quite a while. But one of the things we all need to remember is it just isn't the police. They can arrest somebody, but if there's not a jail to put them in, or people that are there at the jail to service it, and there isn't prosecutors to prosecute, then
they're gonna get up. And that's one of the things that is happening, from what I understand, is there isn't the overflow. I'm sure you've seen on the news where the youth centers are overbooked and they have too many children in there. We need to look at those problems, and the state needs to get in there and look at those problems. King County needs to get in there. As far as what we can do as individuals, each one of us has a voice. We can start shouting to the higher ups that this is unacceptable and needs to be solved. And we have to keep going on and on and on about it. Not just once, not just twice, just keep on. And you have to write letters that are individual letters. We need to get involved.
Thank you. I agree with you on that. I will let you know that there are certain crimes that a juvenile can commit, and it is a mandatory referral. Mandatory referral to, there is a program called Restorative Community Pathways, which is a program funded by King County that a juvenile, by the way, their parents don't get to decide whether they go through this Restorative Community Pathways or they're tried in court. Did you know that? The parents don't get a say in it. It is the juvenile who was arrested. So there are mandatory referrals, and Mayor Ralph of Kent, Mayor Pavoni of Renton, and I have created, we work together quite well, and we met just a week ago with the King County Prosecutor's Office asking for data on the restorative community pathways, what crimes were committed in our communities, how many of them were referred to restorative community pathways, what was the crime, and how many of them have reoffended. We've asked for that every year for the last 4 years, and we get told, oh, that's what you're looking for? We can get you that information. Do you know how many times in the last 4 years I've got that information? 0. So we will continue to ask for it. We will continue to fight for it. We will continue to advocate for it. In my office, I have 3 words that I have printed, so I see them all the time. It is compassion, accountability, and community. You have to have some compassion, but without accountability, we are not a community. Yes.
Chief, I'm going to kind of piggyback off the last question that gentleman over there asked. It's why can't we classify these? You keep calling them groups. Why can't we classify them as gangs? Yeah. Where does it get to a point where your police force can ask for help from federal government, FBI, PA, stuff like that, where you can get further help for your police department?
Well, first off, the actual classification of gangs is controlled by both case law and different court rulings on what needs to occur to actually say, yes, this person is a documented gang member. So we don't have any control over that, but we work under that. We can do, there are things internally where we can show that they associate it possibly with a gang, but I call them groups because we have legal requirements that we have to meet.
And so where does it get to? Does it have to get to a certain point where we have to call in gang members who get extra help from, say, government agencies, or to help you? I've seen other communities such as California and stuff like that, where they have numerous help from government agencies, FBI, PA, Homeland Security, every government agency made up. Where does it get to that point where they can help this?
So we take a regional approach with the other valley cities because they face the same problems we do. As far as the federal government, the FBI does offer some assistance. Mostly it comes down to training. If there's training that's necessary, that sort of thing. We do have, I want to say, quarterly meetings with the federal prosecutor for Western Washington that talks about regional issues. A lot of that is kind of talk about how we can support each other. But the majority of our support, because we think of Auburn as a community, but all of the valley really is tied together, especially in law enforcement. So we take a regional approach, like I said before. Issues that happen here will have that trickle effect throughout the county. So that's where our primary resources come from. We do have officers that sit on various task forces if there's drug-related nexus, and so those have some federal partners involved with those as well. So it all depends on like what ties we can get into these issues. If we find out if they're tied to a certain crime or activity, we can bring in various resources.
I had a question. I live in Cedar Lanes over here by the park, and last about a week ago, my wife was on a walk and I was fired in front of the Cedar Lanes Park, and they tagged in the middle of the day, kids in the park, and they tagged the sign for the Cedar Lanes Park. And I got a call about a week later after I called 911, and an officer came over and said that he interacted with the parties involved, and I wanted to call back, so he called me back and he said they couldn't do anything because they didn't see him tagging the sign, even though why they see that. But he also told me that the gang affiliations, there was 2 local gangs and a gang from Eastern Washington that are now in our area working together, and that they were under investigation about asking about a car and weapons. So I'm just wondering, my question is that, is the city going to be proactive in getting gang task force that will work with the county and the state? Because it's a regional issue. How are these different agencies working together to combat this problem? Because if they're not communicating or talking to each other about what they're going to do about the problem here, things will continue to get worse.
Yeah, so like I said, we do have the regional connections with other agencies. As far as a full-time, it's where we can best utilize our manpower that will make the most impact. And so we do look at those. That's why I think the mayor, this one, which one? I'll just back away a little bit. That's why I believe it was the mayor talked a little bit about if you see something, call in. There's even like for graffiti and things like that, we have the C-Click Fix app. So we do look at that to see basically if it is actual gang-related graffiti versus just somebody spray painting something stupid. And so that kind of generates where we focus what resources we have on a certain area. We do have these shootings that are interrelated here. We do have detectives that's what they are working on right now. So it's not to say all of a sudden we're throwing, it's something new. We're just going to throw somebody on a task force. We do have internally several detectives that are working on these shootings, that are identifying people and working with their counterparts at other agencies. So these shootings are all, I can't say they're all tied together, but there are common factors in each of them. And that's what our detectives are focusing on. And so we don't have a task force per se, but we do have detectives that are constantly working on them. So, I don't see where. Okay.
Comments, basically. To follow up on the woman that was talking about employee video quality that's being submitted as evidence. Pioneer Elementary School had several cameras in the building, and there was a drive-by shooting on 25th, 1 house away from Cedar Lanes Park, where the bike program is currently at. It's a great program for the kids to get out there. The problem is, it's 1 house away. Video cameras in the parking lot, there's a video. Was there any evidence collected from that? The second comment I have is I witnessed a theft from the Auburn School District's maintenance truck. They were mowing the lawn, and you had to park it directly underneath the cameras. 2 vehicles pulled in the parking lot. They were down at the other end of the school mowing the lawn. They cut the chains in the back of the vehicle, stole everything out of it right down to the drain seat. I took pictures of the suspects. I went over and I talked to the supervisor of the Auburn School District's maintenance program. I gave him my videos and the pictures. I waited a couple of weeks. I sent him a text and asked him, is there any follow-up to this? Crickets. So that's all I asked.
I actually have a little question here. Who's the representative that wants to shut down the juvenile jail? Do any of you guys know his name? Who is that? Who's that person? Can we name them here? Who wanted to shut down the juvenile jail?
Well, I like to work collaboratively with the other levels of government, but I do believe our King County executive has been on record saying that he would like to have Dow Constantine would like to have the Juvenile Justice Center closed. But I don't want to say that I have heard him directly say that, but that has been what I've heard. But again, I prefer to work collaboratively. I don't like to just point fingers at people. We're all part of the solution, and I don't like to burn bridges when I need someone's support to help get something done.
Bringing it back to community, you mentioned block watches and those sorts of things, and I know in my neighborhood we tried to do a block watch. We had a meeting at the hospital class, and then it just kind of fell apart because we weren't getting help from the police department. And I'm wondering if there's a volunteer system or something like that we can really, because block watches are something that's going to help boost visibility in the community. And so I would really like to see if there's something we can do to advertise block watches to get, area captains or whatever in a certain area that like in my area off of West Main that I have one police officer I can call who would be the one that would know what's going on in my neighborhood kind of thing. If we were to divide it that way or get back to block watches where we as a community are walking through our neighborhoods and seeing stuff. Too scary.
So block watches themselves, so we work with the city, I believe it's Human Services now, that helps coordinate those with our community resource team.
It will be the Office of Equity or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Yeah.
Our office was set up by the mayor 2 years ago, and so we are going to work on community engagement and outreach, and so we work with our
The name just changed. That's why I was stepping all over it.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is a lot of the block watches and the groups we had went down during COVID because we couldn't get people together. So.
I had a question about just informing and teaching people what different things mean. So the difference of the graffiti that could be gang related. We had a group of officers come to my school and kind of train my teachers and let them know what different things look like. So, the beautiful artistic tagging is much different than gang-related, I'm just gonna say that, gang-related tagging. And if people knew that, maybe that's when they would call and say, this is what I see, and not so much about the beautiful swirly graffiti.
Yeah, that's why we have the C-Click Fix app for those of you who have smartphones. I think just about everybody does. But so those are reviewed to see what people are actually reporting. And one of the things I like it as a city project is the murals that you see around. Even gang members leave those alone. And so that's really helped in certain areas, under bridges and on F Street over by the transit center. And those are usually somebody who's came up as a street artist that create those. And so those really help kind of stop areas from being graffitied.
Hello, my name is Steve Smith. First of all, I want to thank your department for what you guys do with the resources you have to do fine. And second, I was told by an officer, this was about a year ago, that you have all these programs, future programs that are going into place, arrests are being made. I was told a gentleman did $1 million worth of damage and was arrested and caught, sent to King County, and the King County prosecutor let him go. And he came right back to Auburn and did the same bloody thing. So all this stuff you guys are talking about and doing, is it all for nothing if it gets to the King County courts and nothing is done about it? You guys have to vote and get these people to make the right decisions. Because right now, it's a brick wall. Everything these people are doing right now, they're hitting a brick wall because the people that are there will not do anything about it to protect us. And we're going the wrong direction. And the only way to get out of it is to vote. Everybody should vote.
So the only thing I would kind of clarify that if a prosecutor is charged the case, all they can do is request bail. It is up to the court, and a lot of times the court makes their decision. And quite often, yes.
At one of our meetings with the King County prosecutor 2 years ago and last year, when we were talking about not just juvenile crime, but crime in general, car theft, right? Auto theft went sky high in South King County in the last couple of years. The prosecutor's office said, well, if there's someone that you really want us to hold and charge, let us know. And I said, how about the fact that they were arrested and we forwarded the charges to you? That should be enough. I don't believe in calling people out when I do have to work with them, right? Because there are things that we still need as a community that if I were to just go scorched earth on individuals, we wouldn't get it. So I can be strong in my language with them. I can continue to work with them. I can drive them crazy, calling them, texting them, emailing them. But I have something that I don't believe in leading by press conference. I believe in doing the work and letting the work speak for itself. So a lot of the stuff we're doing behind the scenes that we're sharing with you today, but I'm not gonna come out and go, guess what we did? We had a meeting and we still don't have the information that we needed. I'm gonna continue to try and get that. Now, I will tell you that Mayors Ralph and Pavoni and I are to the point of, we're probably right up to here. We've done letters in the past. We've done public announcements in the past. We still always will try to work with the departments or the agencies that we need before we do that. And we let them know that if we don't get what we need, we are going to go public with it. So we are about that close to doing it. I let them know. Yeah. Okay. I let my fellow mayors know that we were holding this meeting today, and I promised them that I would share with them what came out of it, so I will share that with them. Thank you. Oh, I call. Believe me, I call. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I actually live in the apartment complex, and two of the apartment complex built apartments did get bullets from Calhoun.
So she's saying 2 of the apartments where she lived did get bullets.
Did get bullets where I live. One of the families is terrified because it went into the closet of a child's bedroom. you know who's involved, pardon me, you do.
Okay.
If you see something happening and you can identify them, that's where Chief was saying we have challenges right now because the individuals involved are either the victim this time and the suspect the next time, but they're not willing to talk. So if you see it happening, if you're there, please call.
Okay, we only have time for 2 more questions. We're running on the church's time again, so we can talk about this for as much as we want. There will be future meetings. Middle of September, we're going to come on the weekend, so there will be future meetings. Probably everybody's going to come back out again. So we got 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up. We're going to end it with a prayer, and we'll end out.
Hi, sir. My name is I spoke to a number of family members who have lost loved ones to violence in the past weeks, and for parents who are curious, what is the police department in the city doing now that's different from the past to address gun violence and to overcome these challenges that you had expressed to keep families safe?
I don't know if I have a ready answer, because we do continue to investigate these crimes. We make arrests when we can. The problem is you can't predict everything. Nobody would have predicted just because somebody lives here that we'd have this ambush-style shooting right here. There's no way to, you can't station a police officer on every block in the city to be there for something to happen. So the best we can do is we put as many resources as we can to investigate the crime when it happens, to make an arrest for anybody who's involved, whether it's a shooter, the person who drove that person to do this shooting, if they, harbored that person afterwards. We make as many arrests as we can on those cases, and we continue to investigate them as best we can.
The community was outraged at public officials and our government for the lack of, it seems like, respect for the community members. It seems like they are fed up with their voices not being heard, and it was great to see the show out and great to see everybody come together and be able to talk in a good organized form and in a great place. We were doing it in a place of God, in the church, and it brought the state and the church together. It was a great day. It was a great turnout as well.
Can we expect to see more of these?
Yes, we will. Until we see something done, the mayor's office is going to start holding groups like this and sessions like this, and I will continue as well to hold groups like this, and you will hear more from us.
And if somebody wants to get involved with some of your efforts here, how can they go about that?
You can message me on Facebook at my name, Jacob Blixt. You can call me at my number, 253-334-9376. You can leave me messages. You can write to me. Have your voice heard. I will make sure that you can be involved in this program that we're going to be starting, and you can get your message out and try to help everything that's the problem in today.